It was late at night. The street was quiet. A neon sign buzzed softly, and a few cars passed by in the distance. Keanu Reeves was walking alone. He had his hoodie up and his coat collar turned up to keep warm. He had just finished filming a movie and was trying to get back to his hotel. He stopped outside a clothes shop on the corner of Magnolia and Fifth. He wasn't hiding. He was just tired and a little lost. He pulled out his phone to look at the map. The streetlight wasn't very bright, so he held his phone up to see better. Suddenly, headlights came toward him. A police car stopped nearby. The tires made a soft sound as they rolled over the gravel. A door slammed. "Hey, what are you doing out here?" a loud voice said. Keanu looked up. A flashlight was shining in his face, so bright it hurt his eyes. "I'm just looking for my hotel," Keanu said calmly. "I think I took a wrong turn." The police officer's name tag said Mallory. He looked like he wanted to argue. His hand was close to his belt, near his gun. He stared at Keanu. "Sir, is there a problem?" Keanu asked politely. "Yeah," Officer Mallory said as he walked closer. "You're standing near a clothes shop late at night. That looks suspicious." "I didn't go inside," Keanu said. "I'm just checking my directions." "Why the hoodie?" Mallory asked. "Why are you acting nervous?" Keanu almost laughed. He wasn't nervous. He was confused. "I'm not nervous," he said. "I just don't understand why I'm being stopped." Officer Mallory didn't like that. He didn't like Keanu's calm voice. He didn't like that Keanu didn't look scared. "Turn around," Mallory said. "Hands on the wall." Keanu frowned. "I didn't do anything. I'm just—" Suddenly, Mallory grabbed his arm. He pushed Keanu hard against the police car. The cold metal felt sharp through Keanu's coat. He winced in pain. Far down the street, someone shut a car door. But no one came to help. "You're under arrest for resisting," Mallory growled. "For what?" Keanu gasped. His chest hurt. His wrists were being squeezed by handcuffs. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He knew better. He had read about things like this before. He had helped people who had gone through it. He had even acted in movies about it. But now it was real. It was happening to him. And Mallory, he didn't know who Keanu was. Not yet. To him, Keanu was just another man in a hoodie with a beard. Another person who asked, "Why?" And that was enough to get arrested. The police car drove away into the cold night. Keanu sat in the back seat, quiet. His hands hurt. He didn't say anything, but in his mind, he was already planning what he would say in court. In the courtroom, the calm before the storm. The courtroom smelled like old books and wood polish. It looked like a place where the same things happened every day. But today was different. Something was buzzing in the air. Reporters whispered. People sat up straight. Keanu Reeves sat at the defense table. He wore a dark blazer and a simple shirt. He didn't want to stand out. He didn't wear makeup. He didn't bring movie people or fans. He looked like an ordinary man in his 50s. He had gray hair at his temples and quiet, serious eyes. Most people didn't recognize him. Not because he was in disguise. He wasn't. But because people don't really look at someone who stays quiet. At the other table, Officer Mallory sat proudly. His uniform was clean and tight. He tapped his fingers like he was waiting to win. Sometimes, he looked at Keanu and smiled just a little, like he knew he was going to win. He didn't recognize Keanu. Not when he arrested him. Not even now. "The people versus Keanu Reeves," the bailiff called out. His voice echoed. People in the room murmured. "Keanu Reeves?" they whispered. "Is it the actor?" They looked at the man sitting quietly. But he didn't look like a movie star. Keanu stood up. He looked serious and calm. No flashy smile. No cool moves. Just quiet strength. The judge, a serious man named Judge Howard Eleanor, looked over his glasses. "Mr. Reeves, are you ready?" he asked. Keanu nodded once. The judge looked at the prosecutor. "Mr. Avery, you may begin." The prosecutor, Richard Avery, stood up. He looked confident, like he thought this case would be easy. "The people call Officer Trent Mallory," he said. Mallory stood up. He straightened his uniform like a hero in a movie. He walked to the witness stand and raised his hand. He swore to tell the truth, but what he said next was not true. "I got a call about a problem on the east side," he said. "When I got there, I saw this man, outside a closed shop. I asked him for ID. He got angry. He wouldn't listen. He tried to grab my gun. I had to arrest him. I was scared for my safety." Some people in the courtroom gasped. Others frowned. The judge wrote notes. Keanu sat quietly at his table. He didn't move. His hands stayed folded. His face didn't change. He had seen lies like this before. But now it was his name in the report, his body in the story. He leaned toward his lawyer, Julian West, and whispered just 3 words. "Let him finish." The fall of a lie. Julian West was nervous. He tried not to show it. He fixed his tie. He looked at his notes. He tried to stay calm like a good lawyer. But inside, he felt like everything was going wrong. The jury believed Officer Mallory, or they wanted to. Mallory looked strong and sure. He was a police officer. Keanu hadn't said a word yet. He was too quiet, too calm. Julian leaned over and whispered, "We need to say something. This isn't going well." Keanu kept staring at Mallory. The man who had pushed him, called him suspicious, handcuffed him for no reason. "We have to challenge him," Julian said louder. Keanu finally looked at him. "Let him climb higher," Keanu said. "He's building the gallows himself." Julian shivered. It was a strange thing to say, but powerful. On the stand, Mallory kept talking. He said Keanu yelled. He said Keanu tried to fight. He said he feared for his life. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the flashlight, the voice shouting, the cold car, the cuffs. He had been calm the whole time. Because if he got angry, Mallory would use that as an excuse. Julian felt the USB stick in his pocket. It had a video on it, a video taken by a person nearby. It showed what really happened. It was their secret weapon. But Keanu had told him to wait. "The timing is everything," he had said. So Julian waited. Mallory was almost done now. His voice grew louder. He added more details. He acted like a hero. "He reached for my holster," Mallory said. "That's when I had to stop him. I had no choice." Now the courtroom was quiet. All eyes were on Keanu. It was finally time for the truth. The judge nodded slowly. He looked at Julian and said, "Mr. West, you may start your questions." Julian stood up. But instead of walking to the witness stand, he looked at Keanu. Just a quick look. Keanu gave a small nod. It was time. Julian took one slow step forward, then another. Everything felt quiet and careful, like something very important was about to happen. The lie in the courtroom was hanging by a thread, but so was the truth, and the truth was ready to come out. The air felt heavy. No one moved. It was like even the air was waiting. Julian West walked slowly to the middle of the courtroom. He had no papers in his hand. He didn't act proud or angry. He just held up a small silver USB drive between his fingers. "Your Honor," he said in a calm voice, "the defense wants to show a video." There was a pause. The judge, Judge Eleanor, looked a little surprised. The lawyer for the other side, Mr. Avery, jumped out of his chair. "Objection!" The defense didn't. "Sit down," the judge said sharply, not looking away from Julian. "Let's see it." A court officer took the USB and put it into the computer. The big screen above the jury turned on. First, a blurry image of a car door showed up. The window was a little cracked. Then came a sound. It was very clear. It was Officer Mallory's voice. It was loud and mean. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said. The video shook a little as the person recording it moved. Then it showed Mallory grabbing Keanu's arm. Keanu's voice came next. It was soft and calm. "I'm not resisting. You're hurting me." Then came a loud sound. A slam. Mallory had thrown Keanu onto the car hood. The metal made a loud bang. And then came the words that changed everything. Men like you don't get to question me. The whole room went quiet. A woman on the jury covered her mouth. A man in the back whispered a curse. Even Judge Eleanor didn't move. He had his gavel in the air but didn't bring it down. Mallory, who had looked so sure of himself before, now looked stiff and nervous. A drop of sweat rolled down his face. Julian turned and looked at the jury. "You heard what the officer said," he spoke softly. "Now you've seen what really happened." The prosecutor stood up again, quickly. "This video doesn't show the full thing." "No," Julian said, turning calmly, "but it shows what really happened, and what didn't." Then he looked right at Mallory. "You said Mr. Reeves yelled at you. You said he threatened you. You said he tried to grab your weapon and fought back. But in this video, all we see is calm. All we see is him being quiet, being respectful, and in pain." Mallory pressed his lips together. His hands were holding the table tightly. Julian let the room stay quiet. Then he walked back to his table and leaned down to whisper to Keanu. "They saw it," he said. "They heard it." Keanu gave a small nod, but his face stayed calm. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. "That's not the end," Julian added. "They're going to hear more." The jury was surprised. Yes, but they weren't fully convinced. Not yet. There was still one last thing. One last truth. No one in the room was ready for it. Not the prosecutor. Not the judge. Not even Julian. And especially not Mallory. Because this wasn't just about catching someone in a lie. It was about who that lie was told about. And that truth had a name. The room was still quiet. The video was finished. But it was still playing inside everyone's heads. Mallory had gone back to his seat. But he didn't look relaxed anymore. His hands were clenched. His face looked pale and worried. He had lost control. And Keanu Reeves hadn't said a single word yet. Judge Eleanor fixed his glasses. His voice was quiet but serious. "Mr. Reeves, please take the stand." Everyone turned as Keanu stood up. He walked slowly and calmly to the witness chair. Every step was strong and quiet. He didn't look scared. He didn't look angry. He sat down. The light above seemed to shine right on him. For the first time, people looked at Keanu not as a man in trouble, but as someone important. The prosecutor walked up to him. He looked like he was trying to stay calm. "Mr. Reeves," he asked, "can you explain what you did that night?" Keanu didn't answer right away. He looked at the jury. His eyes were steady. His voice was clear. "Before I answer," he said, "I need to explain something." He turned a little. Now he was looking straight at Officer Mallory. "The officer's story wasn't just wrong," he said. "It was on purpose. He lied. He made me sound bad. He wanted to make me feel small, like I didn't matter." The crowd whispered. People were shocked. The prosecutor stepped closer. He looked annoyed. "Do you have any proof for these feelings you're talking about?" Keanu took a deep breath. Then he looked at his lawyer. "I do," he said. Julian stood up. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a sealed folder. "Your Honor," he said, "with permission, we'd like to show the court something important about who my client is." The judge looked curious. "Go ahead." Julian gave the folder to the court officer. It was passed to the judge. Judge Eleanor opened it. He looked at the first page. And then he stopped. His eyebrows went up. He looked surprised. Then, in a quiet voice, he read out loud. "Keanu Charles Reeves. Dual citizen. Actor. Producer. Founder of the Sidewalk Initiative for Victims of Police Misconduct. Advisor to the Department of Justice on Civil Liberty Awareness Campaigns. Winner of the United Nations Medal of Cultural Diplomacy." People in the courtroom gasped. Some now recognized Keanu. Others couldn't believe they hadn't known him before. Mallory stared at Keanu. It looked like he finally understood who he had hurt. And it was too late. Keanu spoke again. His voice was soft, but strong. "You didn't know who I was that night," he said. "I didn't expect you to. I wasn't trying to be known. But you didn't need to know my name to treat me like a human being. You just needed to care. And you didn't." His voice wasn't loud, but everyone could feel it, like thunder. He looked at the jury again. "You shouldn't believe me just because I'm famous," he said. "You should believe me because what happened to me happens to people every day. People who won't ever sit in this chair. People who won't get a chance to speak. People who won't be heard." He paused. "I still have my voice, so I'm going to use it." And in that moment, the trial changed. It wasn't just about being guilty or not guilty anymore. It became something bigger. The truth now had a face. And that truth was no longer silent. The courtroom wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It had become a mirror. And everyone had to look into it. Even the ones who didn't want to. The room was very quiet. Everyone in the courtroom was surprised. The people sitting on the jury leaned forward in their chairs. It was like the truth had suddenly come very close to them. Judge Eleanor didn't say anything. He didn't move. His gavel, the small hammer he uses, just sat beside his hand, like a tool he didn't need anymore. Across the room, Officer Trent Mallory looked much smaller than before. He tried to fix his tie and sit up straight, but it didn't help. The truth had already come out, and everyone saw it. Keanu Reeves had just told the truth, and it had broken the story that Mallory had told earlier. Now, Julian West was ready to finish what Keanu had started. He stood up and held a manila folder in his hand, like it was the final piece in a puzzle. "Your Honor," he said, "the defense gives you something called asterisk. The truth has a name. It's Officer Mallory's work file." The lawyer working for the government jumped up. "Objection. That's not important." "Overruled," said Judge Eleanor quickly, not even letting him finish. A court officer took the folder and handed it to the judge. Judge Eleanor opened it. Right away, he started to frown. Something in the folder made him unhappy. Julian turned to the jury. "What you're about to see isn't just one mistake," he said. "It's not just one bad arrest. It's a pattern." Then Julian handed out copies of the pages in the folder to the jury. Each page had bold letters that said things like, "Use of force complaint," "Racial bias allegation," "Disciplinary review pending." "There are 5 different reports," Julian said. His voice was louder now. In every one of them, Officer Mallory's body camera just happened to stop working. 5 arrests. 5 people. All of them were people of color. No video. No proof. No punishment. The jury looked shocked. Officer Mallory clenched his jaw. His eyes moved quickly from the papers to the crowd of people. His hands held tight to the table in front of him. Julian took a step back and pointed toward Keanu. And now this man, a good man who helps others, a man with no criminal record, was almost called a criminal. Just because one officer knew how to twist the story. The prosecutor didn't even stand up this time. He stayed in his chair. He didn't have anything left to say. Judge Eleanor looked up slowly from the folder. His voice was heavier now, full of meaning. "Officer Mallory," he said, "please come back to the witness stand." Mallory got up and walked like a man walking toward something scary. He didn't move quickly or proudly. He looked like someone going to face something he couldn't escape. Julian walked up to him. But this time, it wasn't just about asking questions. It was like pulling the truth out piece by piece. "You said my client fought back," Julian said. "You said he tried to grab your weapon. Do you still believe that's true?" Mallory swallowed hard. I felt scared," he said quietly. "You felt scared," Julian repeated. "Of a man who didn't yell? Who only asked you a question? Who never even touched you?" "I made a judgment call," Mallory said, trying to sound sure. "A bad one," Julian said right back. "And not the first time either." Then there was silence. No one in the courtroom moved. It was so quiet that people could hear their own breathing. Julian turned back to the judge. "No more questions, Your Honor." Judge Eleanor looked at Mallory for a long moment, then waved his hand. "You may step down," he said. Mallory gave a small nod and walked off the stand. But he didn't walk with pride like before. He walked slowly, almost sadly, like the shame was too heavy to carry. Keanu stayed sitting, but inside he could feel the change. The moment was here. The truth was out. The tide had turned. Just when it seemed like the next part would begin, the closing arguments, the judge spoke again. His voice was calm but strong. "Mr. Reeves," he said, "before we go on, do you have anything else you'd like to say?" Keanu stood up. Not in a big showy way, just calmly and with purpose. He looked around the room. He didn't look like a movie star. He didn't even look like a person on trial. He looked like someone speaking from the heart. "What happened to me happens every day," he said. "It happens to people who don't get the chance to be believed. People who don't have cameras. Who don't have lawyers. Who don't get second chances." He looked at Officer Mallory, who now couldn't even meet his eyes. "But you didn't treat me like a person," Keanu said. "You treated me like I was dangerous. Just because I didn't smile. Just because I asked a question. Just because I didn't follow your order right away." His voice stayed quiet, but it felt strong like thunder. "You didn't know who I was. But that doesn't matter. You should have treated me kindly, not because I'm famous, but because I'm human." He paused for a moment. That's what justice is supposed to protect. Then he sat down. No one moved. No one blinked. The courtroom, which had felt powerful and sure just the day before, now felt unsure. The truth had shaken the room. Then, the doors to the jury room creaked open. Everyone turned their heads. The woman in charge of the jury walked in. Her face didn't show any emotion. In her hands was a folded piece of paper. It shook a little, not from fear, but from how important it was. Keanu sat up straight but stayed calm. He didn't look nervous. Julian held his notes tightly, but didn't say a word. Across the room, Mallory stared at the ground. His shoulders were stiff like he was preparing for something he thought would never happen. Judge Eleanor cleared his throat. "Madam Forewoman," he said, "has the jury reached a decision?" "We have, Your Honor," she replied. She gave the paper to the court officer, who handed it to the judge. Judge Eleanor read it silently. Then he nodded. "In the case of the state versus Keanu Reeves," he read out loud, "we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty on all charges." A big breath seemed to fill the whole courtroom. People gasped. Some whispered. A few even let out little sighs of relief. Keanu didn't show a big reaction, but his eyes looked a little softer. Julian let out a long breath, like he'd been holding it the whole day. Judge Eleanor kept reading. "Also," he said, "the jury asks for an investigation into Officer Trent Mallory and how he has behaved on the job." Everyone looked at Mallory. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't argue. He had lost more than the case. He had lost the false story he had used to hide the truth. As the courtroom slowly emptied, reporters rushed in. Cameras were everywhere. People were shouting questions. But Keanu didn't stay for the cameras. He walked outside into the golden afternoon sunlight. He turned to the people gathered there, not as a movie star, but as someone who wanted to speak the truth. "I didn't stand in that courtroom because I'm famous," he said. "I stood there because truth matters, even when it's hard, especially when it makes us uncomfortable." "This wasn't just about me," he continued. "It was about people who never get to be heard. People whose names no one remembers. People who are hurt before they ever get a chance." He looked around. Some people were crying. Some held signs. Everyone was listening. "We can't go back and change the past," Keanu said. "But we can change what we do next. Speak up. Ask questions. Record things people try to hide. And most of all, don't look away when injustice is right in front of you." If you like this story, tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more fun adventures and mysteries. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.